Welcome to the bush. There's a lot of food growing all around us, and in this episode, we're going to explore some of the wild edibles that are growing here in the Midwest. This episode is going to span the course of probably several weeks as we look at the different things that are growing around us during this season. A lot of good nutritional food is growing right around us, and many people don't even know it. So stick around, and I'm going to show you a few of the items that I've learned about recently. We're going to start with your basic old cattail. There's some edible parts on the cattail, and the plant itself is very useful. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up a couple of the stalks and try to show you a part that's edible on the plant. The cattail is pretty easy to pull out by the roots. Pretty easy to do. So what you want to do is the cattail is layered. It's layer upon layer of stuff. So what I'm going to do here, I should have brought my pocket knife, is I'm going to peel a few of the layers apart here until we get down to the stalk itself. And that is the tender part right in here. Here we go. Yeah, see how that broke real clean and real easy? So I'm going to take this real tender stalk out, and this is this part that's the most edible, and we'll do that out of a few cattails, and then we'll saute this in some butter, a little salt and pepper, and we'll have us a nice little treat. It's got a really pleasant aroma to it. And it's making my hands sticky, so you can tell there's a lot of sugars in it. So, source of calories, source of carbohydrates. One of the most important things here I have to note is you must do your own research. Don't take my word for everything. The last thing I want to do is get somebody sick or get them poisoned by eating the wrong thing. Be 100% sure. You know the drill. You know the drill. It's a disclaimer that you have to say in every book and every video about wild edibles. You have to be 100% sure. This tree here is known as the Stephaeus tueus. Oh look, it's got a bud on it now. So we're just going to pick that bud. This doesn't need to be cooked. It can be enjoyed fresh. Ooh. These are black locusts. Black locust flowers are totally 100% edible. So these can be fried. There's many different things, but we're going to pick a few. Very tender. This right here is wild carrot, also known as Queen Anne's lace. This is very edible. It can be easily mistaken though for, I believe it's poison hemlock. Easy way to tell if it's wild carrot. There are hairs on the stem, which you can see there. It smells and tastes like carrot. Totally edible. Wild carrot is actually one of my favorites because it really does taste like carrots. It's not bad at all. Maybe less sweet than your common carrot. A little more bitter. But I'm also eating the green and not the root. I've never tried the root. These are known as cleavers. We call them cleavers because they stick to you. They cleave to about anything. Animal fur, you know, clothes, different things. These also have the little balls on them. You can see them right there. They get stuck in your pet's fur all the time. Get stuck in your socks when you take a walk through the weeds, you know. Anyway, these leaves, I like to pluck these leaves. They're totally, if I can get any in my mouth. I like to pluck these leaves. Okay, I'm not having very good luck here. I like to pluck these leaves. They are totally edible. They really don't have much of a taste to them. They're kind of sandpapery on your tongue. What I like to do is put them on a cutting board and dice them up like, you know, like parsley or something, and just dress things with them. Because obviously it's going to take a lot to get full on these. But they're naturally good for your blood pressure. So cleavers, a very good wild edible. A good thing to have around. So behind me here is a big, huge patch of wild rhubarb. I'm still learning about this plant a little bit, but to my knowledge, it is edible. I'm going to pick one of these big leaves down at the base. It looks a lot like rhubarb. It's got that reddish tint. Big, huge leaves. These big balls that get stuck in your clothes and on your pet's fur and everything. These are the seeds for the wild rhubarb. These are what inspired the invention of Velcro, because they have a little hook on the end of them. So, the more you know. The leaf here, awesome toilet paper. Not only does it make for good summertime toilet paper, but it's also good for, I could build a debris shelter and keep a lot of the rain off if I found a patch like this. I could easily overlap these like shingles and be protected from the rain. This is your common violet. It's totally edible. Virtually tasteless. Your culinary chefs, you know, your big chefs like to use it as a garnish on fancy dishes to make it look pretty. Heart-shaped leaves. And the leaves are also edible. They have a little bit more of a taste to them. So yeah, your violets, they grow all over in my yard this time of year. And they are totally 100% edible. I want to make note of something. This is just a broad overview of wild edibles. Please do your own research as far as identification goes. Don't take my word for it. And don't use the footage that I've showed on this video for identification. I'm just doing a broad overview of some of the edibles that are available in my area here in southern Iowa. This stuff here is called lamb's quarters. This is one of my favorite wild edibles because it's just simply tasty. It has a mushroomy, earthy flavor to it. It reminds me of morel mushrooms. And it's just got that woody, earthy flavor to it. It's really good for you. And you can also, you know, cook it in a skillet, you know, like greens, like you would spinach. But this is good stuff. Put it in soups, salads, eat it right off the plant raw. It's good stuff. Lamb's quarters. Lamb's quarter has a sort of water-resistant coating on it that is like a white, powdery material. If you look at the plant, you can see this white material, especially on the underside of the leaves. It's sort of a slick, really slick kind of coating. There's that white material, substance, or whatever you want to call it. It's actually kind of a water repellent. Well, right behind me here, we have some black raspberries. It is now June. It's getting towards the end of June, and there are some black raspberries here. They're not doing as good on this farm as they used to do. Used to be able to pick like an ice cream container full of them. Now, boy, that would be a lot of work. It was a lot of work back then. I made wine with them one time. It was the best wine I ever made, but it was just so much work. But wild raspberries, black raspberries, just absolutely delicious. I'll show you. You want to get the ones that are really dark red or almost black, purple. These black raspberries are a real treat. Oh, they have such a good flavor. Especially if it's been dry for a little bit. Whenever it's been dry for a little bit, the sugars in your fruit are more concentrated. And tastes a little better. That's why a dry year for a vineyard, when making wine, a dry year for a vineyard is actually better than a wet year for the quality of the wine. The hardest thing about the raspberries, blackberries and raspberries and such, is they come on at different times. They produce for a good 2-week period or whatever. And the problem with that is it's hard to get a whole bunch at once unless you have just a really big patch. But so it's more of a passing by kind of thing. It's more of a treat. You could put them on your salad. You could, whatever. But if you're going to make a pie with them, or if you're going to make wine with them, you better have a really big patch. We do have a pretty good sized patch behind me here, but they're just, most of them are, most of them are still red. They're not ripe yet. And the problem is the birds nab them as soon as they get ripe enough. Basically, they don't let them get ripe. And that's the problem that we run into here is the critters, the birds. They pick them before we can get to them. Well, it is now mid-July, and earlier this summer, I noticed that all this wild carrot was growing here by the house. And so we decided to mow around it, and I used it in different things. I used it in soups and sauteed it and ate it raw and put it on salads and everything else. And now it has bloomed, and it is what's commonly known as Queen Anne's lace. You can actually fry up these little flower heads and eat them too. So these are totally edible. They're usually covered in ants. And but anyway, totally edible plant. The main thing with this plant is you just have to be very careful because it looks a lot like poison hemlock, and it's easy to get the two crossed, and you don't want to do that. So make sure you know what you're doing, and don't go off this video as identification, please. I don't want anybody to get hurt. But they made such a nice looking little flower garden. They actually look really cool. So down here, this part of my garden, I've got my kale growing, tomato plants and stuff. But there's tons and tons and tons of wood sorrel here. And I really enjoy the fact that it's growing by my kale and my lettuce, because wood sorrel is great on a salad because it imparts a citrusy flavor. Citrusy, very good on a salad. You can also make lemonade with it. Well, now that it's July, the black raspberries are done for the season, but the blackberries are starting to come on. In fact, we've got a couple that are starting to get ripe. Thought I saw a ripe, there's a ripe one. These are blackberries. The difference between the blackberry and the black raspberry is the black raspberry has a hollow inside when you pick it. The blackberry has a little pit in it. But, yep, and the blackberry is much more bitter. There's what your leaves look like. Well, here's one that I'm sure a lot of you have heard of. This is elderberry. Elderberries are kind of different. First they have a white flower, and then they turn into these little berries. And when they get ripe, we'll pick some and we'll try them out. One of the things to look for is a sawtooth on the leaves. I don't know if you can see that or not, if it'll even focus. But the leaves have a sawtooth edge. Elderberries, kind of interesting. I don't know a lot about them. I've never picked them before. This is going to be my first year messing around with elderberries. But I've noticed that we've got quite a big patch here, and we also got a big patch up by the barn. So I'm really excited. I'm still doing my research. I guess you have to cook them before you can eat them. But I've heard conflicting reports. I just need to do more research. I will let you know. All right. I'm sure you've all seen these before. Isn't this cool? What a neat looking plant. What a really, really cool plant. Nature's toilet paper. And here's why. This has the softest, most gentle feeling peach fuzz leaves. Like, if I gotta go in nature and I find one of these plants around, oh, that's gonna be a good day. Big broad leaves, great for wiping. Great for a lot of things. I mean, you can clean up with them, just use them as a exfoliator. They kind of gently exfoliate. Anyway, there's a lot more you can do with this plant. This plant is very medicinal. You can make teas and stuff, but you can also smoke the leaves. It's the only plant that I know of that you smoke and it's good for you. So you dry the leaves out and you roll them into a cigar and you smoke them. Which, you know, I like having good cigars on in the bush, so we might have to smoke some mullein. It's supposed to have benefits, like if you've got chest breathing issues, if you have any sort of cold symptoms. If you smoke mullein, it is supposed to provide relief to your breathing. It's kind of counterintuitive. You would think smoking something would be really bad for you, but not mullein. So I'm going to actually harvest a few of these leaves and dry them out and smoke them. I'm standing in front of a giant patch of milkweed. Milkweed is making a comeback, in part thanks to our county. Conservation has been promoting it a lot this year. The milkweed provides a place for monarch butterflies to breed. So without the milkweed, we actually will not have monarch butterflies. And so you might see a butterfly flapping around here. There's been several in and out just since I got here. That's also great for all the pollinators, of course. But see, now that it's getting to the middle of July, the flowers, they have the purple flowers on them, but those are mostly gone. And now they're starting to grow little seed pods. And we're going to harvest a couple of them, and I'm going to show you how to fry them up. So I've been watching this patch. There is other ways to eat milkweed, but I think this is one of the most common ways. I've been watching this patch, and just over the course of the last week, the flowers started to die out and the seed pods started to come on. You want to catch the seed pods when they are very green. So I'm going to pick one here and just show you. They look like kind of like a piece of okra, right? And when you open them up, they should have a fleshy inside that is kind of soft and almost like a, yeah, like a string cheese kind of thing, right? I think this is going to be perfect for what we want to do. Now, milkweed gets its name from the milky latex that comes out of the ends of the leaves when you break them off. It's, you know, it's a white latex kind of substance, and it is poisonous. So what you have to do with these seed pods is you have to boil them, toss the water before you prepare them. So I don't think there's all that much to it, and I'm only going to take a few bites the first time. Little piece of advice: when you're trying wild edibles for the first time, don't mix them together. Try one plant at a time. So one day, try one plant. Make sure you don't get sick or have any sort of reaction to it. If you mix them all together, then you might have a reaction to one of the ingredients, but you don't know which one it was. So always try wild edibles individually and in very small. Take just like 2 bites and see how you feel. I'm confident you can eat these. There's tons of videos about it. You just have to prepare them in the correct way. All right, everyone. Welcome to my kitchen. I got the Fry Daddy fired up here because we're going to fry up our milkweed pods. So let's get them prepared. All right. I only have 3 small milkweed pods here. One's bigger than the other 2, but this is my first time trying it, so going with just 3. Again, whenever you try a wild edible for the first time, I don't recommend you try a whole lot. Try a few bites. See if you like it. See if it makes you sick. Not that it's going to make you sick, not as poisonous, but it's just the fact that you're trying something new for the first time in your life. You should do that with anything. Anyway, into the boiling water they go. And we're going to boil them for a solid 3 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer. 1, 2, 3, start. And we're going to boil them. And what this does is it cooks them solidly and gets rid of any of the things that would disagree with us. Okay, our milkweed pods have boiled for over 3 minutes now. And we're going to strain out the boiling water. And we are going to cool them, rinse them off, rinse out the container real good. And we're going to put them in cool water because we want to stop the cooking process. Now, some people let them sit for a while. I'm reading different things online. I've been reading a lot of different recipes, but I'm just going with your basic bushcraft way of doing it. And so now what I have here is a very simple flour and cornmeal mixture, and I seasoned it up with some Creole, some Zatarain's Creole seasoning, and I've got a simple egg wash here. I'm probably going to double bread it, and then I'm going to throw them in the Fry Daddy. Okay, so we're going to go in the flour mixture first, over to the egg wash. Nice and good egg wash. And back in the mixture. And now we'll do the typical breading process that everyone's familiar with. Starting to take the form of fried okra. Which I'm making something different just a little bit. Anyway, 350 minutes on. We could use 375, and we're going to cook these until they're nice and golden brown, crispy. And it shows. See what that does? Alright, it's been a few minutes. Our milkweed pods are looking pretty good. So, we're going to pull them out, sit them on a paper towel, let them cool. Because I have heard if you bite into these hot, they'll kind of squirt and burn the inside of your mouth. So, we'll let these cool for a couple minutes. And then let's see what I think. All right, here we go. My first time eating milkweed. Ooh. The inside is like cheese. It's like gooey and stretchy. Look at that. Mmm. Pretty mild flavor. Probably similar to, I don't know, fried okra. No, I know what it reminds me of. Jalapeno poppers. Just like cheese, it's just like a piece of string cheese on the inside. This is absolutely delicious. The fact that these, you can eat these, this is so cool. And they just grow everywhere around. Breading's delicious too with that Creole seasoning. It's just perfect. Yes. It's like a jalapeno without the heat. Well, this is a really good wild edible because they usually grow in patches where there's several plants in one patch. Like the patch that I had, you saw behind me, I had a pretty good sized patch. This kind of makes me want to go down there tomorrow and pick a bunch. Because that was so good. It's free food. I mean, why not, right? And I'm sure there's some nutritional value, although deep frying it, excuse me, yeah, deep frying it probably takes that away, but I'm sure there's other ways you could fix it, as long as you boil it, you know, for that at least 3 minutes and throw that water out. I think that's the main thing.